I don't yeah. So that's it.
Thrilling tale.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Game Over Greggy show. I'm one of your hosts, Greg Miller, alongside the producer/seducer, Nick Scarpino.
So that's where I pick up the story, right?
Yeah, tell me some Blake Shelton
fan, right? I come up from the other angle where I was like, I never really liked Gavin Rossdale. Like, he just didn't seem like the kind of guy to me that she should be with. Yeah. She meets this Blake girl. She meets this Blake Shelton guy,
and
instantly they look like they got this chemistry,
they got the sparks.
right? And like it just makes sense now. You know, it makes sense.
Over there, the pure one at Tim Gettys.
Let Tim motherfucker
making banana references.
Not just banana. They're Gwen Stefani. They're quality Gwen Stefani references, Greg.
Yeah.
Okay.
That was a song.
Then over here, Christmas in October, Joey Noel.
Oh, hello.
Christmas in
It took me a second. I was afraid I wasn't going to remember it. I haven't done an introduction over there. And then over there, the fifth best friend, the rarity these days at the show, the table, whatever you want to call it, Patreon supporter, Justin Toft.
Yeah.
Hey, everybody.
How are you, Justin?
Good.
Thank you for coming by.
Oh, of course.
You supported us to come on this dumb show.
Yep.
Do you regret it yet?
Not yet. We'll see how this goes.
Because we took you to Wild Wings before this.
Yeah.
You've been bumming around today. You've seen the shows going on. And also, you're very fascinating. You're working on your own whiskey.
Yeah, along with some friends of mine, yeah.
No, just you. You told me it was all you. You were the man who made it all happen.
Take credit for it all.
Well, okay.
You're not gonna say credit for it? Yeah, that's awesome. How long you been listening to us?
Since Beyond Days.
Thank you.
Kevin Smith episode is when I found Kind of Funny.
Oh, cool.
And been a fan ever since.
Oh, so you were a fan of Smodcast first? Is that why, or no?
Yes.
So you heard him on Beyond, and then were you listening to Kevin Smith and heard me, and you were like, I got to be a fan of these people.
I don't know if it was you so
Just
much.
Nick.
It's like there was other things happening on that
And
episode.
I
No,
was in the episode.
you were in the episode for sure.
Certainly remember myself being the standout component of the episode. I might be remembering that incorrectly.
Yeah, I feel like you
but
are.
I feel like Kevin, he calls me all the time. Just, when are you gonna come back? When are you gonna come back? I was like, dude, I don't have time for you.
Yeah, there seemed to be a chemistry there.
All right. Well, thank you, Justin. If you didn't know, ladies and gentlemen, this is the Game Over Greggy show. Each and every week, 4, sometimes 5 best friends gather on this table, each bringing a
Dude, I set it up for you.
Justin, you son of a bitch! You claim me a fan.
We're doing it
He's
again.
staring me in the eyes, and I'm like, what the?
We're doing it full
It's the
circle.
baby blues.
It's like Coyote Ugly. All right, we've gone through the toll plaza. Now we're coming back. I'm John Goodman. You're the Piper girl. I think there was other people in the car. All right. 4, sometimes 5 best friends gather on this table, each bringing a random topic discussion for your amusement. If you like that, head over to patreon.com/kindafunny, just like Justin did, where you can toss us an obscene amount of money to come beyond the show because you love us and support us and we appreciate you, or where you can toss us just $1, watch us record it live, a few more bucks, get it early. Of course, if you have no bucks to toss our way, though, you can head over to youtube.com/kindafunny, get the show topic by topic, day by day, until it goes up as one big video in MP3 the following Friday. What is going on with this TV? Why is it constantly blinking that it's muted? It threw me for a second.
I don't know.
I got the giggles today, Joey. I got the giggles.
Oh my gosh. It was because
Are we standing on the thing?
It was because we got wings.
Whoa! Whoa!
I'm gonna solve it. It's all good, guys. It's all.
If there's a problem, Tim will solve it. Check out The Hook while Kevin Coelho rests in peace.
My God.
Ice, ice, baby.
Nick, what's your topic?
Threw me off with the.
I want to talk about Harvey Weinstein today, which is I know it's going to be more of an intense topic, but we haven't done a really intense one on the show, and I think
one
this
hasn't
is,
struck us, I think.
That's true. I think this is interesting, and I want to hear everyone's perspective on this. Not that I assume we'll all be divisive at all in any way, shape, or form, but it's been crazy news with him lately. All the stuff that's come out about him, and
Sure.
It's heartbreaking.
So
to tell you the truth,
I know Harvey Weinstein, and I don't know him.
Right.
I know of him, I should say,
Right.
through Kevin Smith.
Right.
He's
Miramax.
a linchpin to getting Kevin Smith's career off the ground.
Yeah, so Harvey Weinstein's one of those guys that I look back and he's had a hand in making some of my favorite films and actually making the careers of a lot of my favorite directors over the years, right? We were talking over lunch and I was like, there are probably a handful of people that I look to and like that really form my childhood of movie-going experiences, Steven Spielberg being one of them. But like when I look at the 90s, that's defined by the era of Kevin Smith and Quentin Tarantino and Robert Rodriguez and all
that indie scene.
And Harvey Weinstein and Miramax were very, very integral into giving those guys their start, right? And so I look back and I see these movies like Pulp Fiction, Reservoir Dogs, and these things that that were distributed by them, and I think, wow, what a like, I love these films, right? And so then last week, as all this news started to come out about Harvey Weinstein and how he's being accused of sexual assault and sexual harassment and all of these things.
And that's where it starts, sexual harassment.
It
and then,
started with sexual harassment, and now, if I'm not mistaken, it has evolved into actually full-on sexual assault. There are people that have come out and accused him of anything ranging from just inappropriate comments to forcibly forcing himself on them in hotel rooms.
Important for later listeners, we're recording this, on Tuesday the 10th?
Right.
So if anything else evolves, changes from here, what we know is, of course, these allegations started last week.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, then a whole bunch more allegations started coming today on the 10th. I saw, via the New York Times, they had an audio clip of him basically admitting it and talking to this one woman about it or whatever.
Yeah,
he's been fired from the Weinstein Company. He's put out a thing saying this is not true. However, he's going to counseling.
He has put out a few statements that I've seen, and I should look them up. I don't want to get them wrong, but his lawyer has said that he's an old dinosaur and that this is just the way that he's used to living, and that he's trying to change and trying to be better.
Really? That's what the lawyer said?
That's what the lawyer said. Ooh. So there've been. By the way, it's notable.
You need a better lawyer.
It's very weird because his lawyer supposedly has defended a lot of women in cases like this, and so a lot of people are kind of scratching their head as to why she would take him on as a client. Because prior to this, she's made a track record of defending women who have been, who have accused men of sexual assault. And so a lot of people are scratching their head on that one. But most notably, as of I think yesterday or today or earlier this morning, Gwyneth Paltrow and Angelina Jolie are talking about situations they've been in that are oddly similar to everyone else's. And
it's Patricia Arquette. It's a bunch of actresses.
Did Meryl Streep come out with something today too? Did I see that?
I don't think she accused him, but I think she came out
condemned
basically saying this is horrible and this kind of shit has to stop.
Yeah.
Asia Argento has a story that's horrible. I mean, they're all too similar to kind of ignore. Obviously, like you don't want to make accusations with things that haven't been proven yet. But this is an overwhelming amount of people who are coming out and talking about him. So, innocent until proven guilty is what it is. But I think it's fair to say that he's done some pretty intolerable shit in the past. And it's fucked up and it's terrible for so many reasons. Not the least of which is that there are countless women who probably haven't come forward who have had to deal with this shit. And no one should ever be put into that position where their career or their safety or their livelihood is in jeopardy because of someone else that's in a position of power to hold that over them.
And that was the main thing,
terrible.
right? Where
that
he
is
was
deplorable.
in these stories. His accusations, he threatens, right, that they won't work in the town again.
He's clearly a person who has had a tremendous amount of power for a number of years and can literally, or could, as at least up until last week, make or break anyone's career. I mean, he's responsible for winning people Academy Awards. He's responsible for making, again, some of my favorite movies. And so, first and foremost, I just think it's just fucking deplorable that people would use any sort of level of authority or power over another human being like that. Secondly, and on just a personal note, it's heartbreaking because it's never good to see someone that you looked up to and hear something like this about them, right? Now, we had this sort of moment where I think our culture shifted with Bill Cosby, where everyone said he has been accused of doing things like this and settled lawsuits out of court for decades. And finally, an overwhelming number of women came out and said, "This guy is fucking horrible. We need to do something about this." We should also note that we're recording this right now. He has not been. I think he just got one of the trials. I think he got off on, but I think that he's going back to trial again, if I'm not mistaken. So Bill Cosby's still in the thick of that. And that was heartbreaking for so many different people. And now having Harvey Weinstein go through the same thing, it's my hope. It's as much as it sucks as a fan. My hope is that this is the beginning of something, right? The end of that old shitty era, and hopefully the beginning of let's push forward and not feel like people should it should be deplorable for anyone who is sweeping this under the rug with him, And I feel like there's a culture in every business where if someone can, if this guy has the power to make your career, you get put in a tough spot, maybe you sweep it under the rug, maybe you help him, hide this shit, and hopefully this is an example of people aren't going to stand for this anymore, and as a culture we're going to band together and be better.
Absolutely. I mean, I think it's not even the beginning. I think we're in the thicket of it. Like, it's happening already where over the last year, you can look at it and one by one, people getting taken down for varying degrees of this type of stuff, whether it's Nick Robinson or Andy Signore. whatever
Screen
it is,
Junkies,
the
yeah.
Screen
Yeah.
Junkies situation, or Harry Knowles from Ain't It Cool News, or just it's all of these. And every week there's some new situation coming out where people are coming forward, and it's just like it's changing from it being not okay to do the stuff to it being not okay and you can't get away with it because you will be exposed, and that's good. Let's fucking get that out there and let's stand together as a people, being like, we're not going to put up with this shit, so that people understand how to behave. Like something that I think is a little disturbing is how often we'll be on the morning show when these situations come up and the chat starts blowing up with, oh, are they going to talk about the Screen Junkies situation? Are they going to talk about Nick Robinson? Are they going to talk about it? And it's like, it feels like it's just trying to feed into this drama. Like they're trying to get some scoop. They're trying to get us to say something where it's like, where do you stand on this? What do you mean, where do I stand on
Yeah.
this? Sexual harassment is fucking wrong.
Yeah.
It's like, there's not this side or that
It's
side.
not really a gray area.
And it's not a thing of like, because then people take it to this level of it's not true. Like until it's proven guilty, it's not true. It's like, we can't just put the impetus on victims to make them feel uncomfortable to come forward with things. We need to just, if that's out there, take them for what it's worth and go forward from there. Do not shut them down instantly and do not mob against them, because that's where things get really bad. And it's like to see people like look at us as tastemakers and influencers to try to get us to like say anything that's not, this is fucking wrong. Like, period. Whether or not the people did it or are in trouble for it or whatever, the accusations are bad.
Yeah.
Those are things that we do not stand by, and we
Of
will
course.
never stand by.
Of course.
Well, it's heartbreaking for me, right, in terms of this situation, is the fact that, you would have talked to me about this, and I'm obviously a 34-year-old white male, not many problems outside of my shitty dog. But it would be that I would have told you before all of this, right, that you're talking about how like things are changing and da-da-da. I would have liked to have believed things had changed. I would have liked to have believed that this isn't where it is. And I know, like, you'll watch, and this is just my own, privileged upbringing or whatever. You watch, like, a Law & Order SVU, and they're trying to get, like, someone who's been raped to go on the record or do the test and blah, blah, blah. I understand that, like, okay, like, in that scenario of, like, you have no resources, you're a minority, you think the police don't care about you. There's something like that happening, right? But to imagine that like Gwyneth Paltrow and Angelina Jolie and all these people that are like mega movie stars are there and they thought they couldn't do anything, and that there's all these women that literally someone had to break this dam and then they all come flooding out, like Bill Cosby, like this, like every one of these stories you hear.
Well, it's because no one's going to come forward. It takes such bravery, courage, and understanding of what that's about to do to their lives, what it's going to do to them from all the detractors that are like, oh, like they're just going to overwhelm their Twitters or social media or whatever the fuck it is, with saying that they're wrong, saying that they're lying, saying that they're making it up or whatever. And that is so damning, and it's unfair to everybody involved. And I feel like I know there's situations here where people tell me things that I don't do anything. So then when this shit happens, now I'm like, well, shit, should I have done something? Yeah. And that's horrible. But it's like, it hits a point where I go through it in my head. I'm like, well, what am I going to do? And I feel like it definitely, it isn't until recently that I'm seeing people actually get in trouble for this shit, because I remember being places where people definitely made complaints to different HR groups and nothing happened. Yeah. It just swept under the rug and absolutely gone. And so to see the Screen Junkie situation, I'm like, yeah, fuck yeah, man. Let's fucking go and see how far we can get this, because there's a problem with the system. It's a systematic issue when it comes to HR companies defending the people that work there for whatever reason it is.
Yeah. I mean, like, it's so disheartening. You know what I mean? And I don't mean to like put it, like, obviously we always put our own lens on the situation and talk about it that way, and that's all you can do. And that's all you can do to personalize it. But it's the fact that to sit here and imagine these women thinking that they couldn't say something or saying something to HR and it not happening and not talking amongst each other how to come out and how to do this and how to make one big move, you know what I mean? Yeah. Or the person who has been sexually assaulted or sexually harassed or whatever, and worrying about what that's going to be, right? And I know it's taking something we talk about in a very trivial fashion and making it a very serious issue, but it is the fact that if you have been sexually assaulted, if you have been sexually harassed, do speak up, because the people who are going to go to your Twitter and be assholes are what we always talk about. They're the vocal minority. And I think that when those people stand up and act like they speak for everybody, the perception is that they speak for everybody. And I realize, as somebody who deals with people who want to be fucking mean on the internet, the negativity speaks louder than the positivity. But I would say overwhelmingly the silent majority is like, oh shit, this is fucked up. We believe you. We want to support you. We just don't know how, and all this different stuff.
Yeah, I mean, it's fucking disgusting on so many levels. I mean, you start thinking about it, and these are the women who have come out. But what about the women who maybe turned him down, and then whose careers ended prematurely?
Yeah, exactly. Who just totally got
who
torpedoed?
Actually, just got torpedoed. It's fucking horrible. It's just so. I don't know. I mean, Tim, you're right. You hit the nail on the head. Like, I have friends that, have been involved one way or the other in some of the stuff that's happened in the last couple of weeks. And to hear them come out and actually, like, share their stories, I'm like, Jesus. I mean, I look at myself and I'm like, I don't know that I'd have the balls to do that. I don't know that I have the courage to do that. Like, I don't know that I'd be able to take that risk, knowing that we live in a world where accusers become, just get completely torn down. And because it can ruin your life to accuse someone of that, even if that person's guilty of it.
I mean,
and it's fucking horrible.
I've told this, everything I just said, I still say despite what I'm about to say, which is a story I've told on the show before. But one of my closest friends growing up got accused of rape in high school, and it ruined his life. He's no longer one of my closest friends because he is a different person. He got sent to juvenile hall. Things got really bad. One thing led to another. He's where he's at now. Years later, after fighting, she comes forward and was just like, I made it all up. I was lonely and no one liked me, and I felt the only way I can control something is if, like, I saw in movies that if I were to say this, then something's going to happen. And it's just like, that shook me personally. I have an actual real life experience with that. Having said that, you need to come forward. You know what I mean? It's like that. You need to give people the benefit of the doubt of if they're going to come forward. You got to do the due diligence of getting in there and getting to the bottom of it and figuring out where the truth lies. But you can't go into assuming that they're making it up.
Shit like that sucks so hard because for every one of those stories, which I know that they do exist, like, there are so many people that haven't come forward.
And that's what's important.
Yeah. And it sucks. But it's like, I feel like so often that's the story that's the rebuttal for people coming forward of like,
100%.
Oh, well, this, and I'm not to like, because I know that that's totally different shitty situation of like, it totally does ruin someone's life. But like, it sucks because I feel like if someone is coming out against or with sexual assault or harassment charges, like, they always have an uphill battle of like, I have to fight to tell you why my story is the true one.
The burden of proof's on you.
Yeah, it's crazy. And all of this stuff is it's been like such a shitty couple weeks and like even months going back to like all the Polygon stuff and everything. But it's interesting to hear you guys say that like you thought that it was like we had moved past this.
And not that, oh man, we've stamped out rape and sexual harassment.
Totally. But even going like, there are people that I have encountered in the last couple years that still, it might not be as like clear as like the Harvey Weinstein thing of like, I can make or break your career with this, but it's the implied power struggle of like the statements of like, we should hook up, we should have sex, we should do something, and that I can get you a job or I have connections aren't necessarily happening in the same conversation, but it's the underlying like motivation behind it. And it's just like, I don't think, you said that you think that this is the beginning of the end, and I don't necessarily think it is, because there's people that still, regardless of all of this stuff coming out, still make those same decisions and make those same statements. But I think it puts them on notice of like, you have a much higher risk now of
you're only going to get away with this for like 40 to 50 years before
I made that statement, and I think that it's the beginning of it beginning to be destigmatized, right? It beginning to be swept under the rug, and it beginning for younger generations now. My hope is that as young boys turn into men, they see these examples of these monsters that are getting called out of the darkness and put on fucking blast, and they go, oh, okay, that's an example of what not to do, right?
Yeah.
And then my hope is that they'd look at other people and find other good examples of how people should treat each other.
Yeah.
And that's how it works, right? Like, on some level, I know it's a complete and total cop out, but when Harvey Weinstein says I'm a product of my time, that there is some merit to that. right? Where he did come up in a system where that rampant misogyny and that horrible abuse was just kind of accepted, right? Cosby was a perfect example of, like, obviously people rallied around him to protect him because he was a moneymaker for them. But the fact of the matter is that this is where it stops. Dude, you did something seriously wrong. You've been doing something seriously wrong for years. And because you got away with it doesn't make it right. Right?
Yeah,
because you
not at
got
all.
away with it doesn't mean it's culturally acceptable. And that's what I meant by that statement of saying, like, this is like, from this point forward, anyone that's on the internet or in a position of power should know by now it's not acceptable to do this shit. Right. And kudos to all the women that came out against these guys to be like, yo, this is just I don't think this kind of behavior is what should be representative of people that are thought leaders in this industry.
Yeah, but then you look at all of the stuff that came out about Trump before, and he still got elected.
That is very true. And that's why I would have liked to have been that. I would like to believe that we were past this point, right? I thought that Donald Trump was a perfect example of, clearly there is a lot more ground to be made up. There's a lot more work to be done on this front.
Yeah.
He is a guy that I would have looked at and been like, he's a guy that I would never have thought had anywhere close to good moral fiber. And then he became president and proved me completely right. He has proven time and time again that he has zero ethics whatsoever.
Well, that's the thing. It's like, even outside of like political views or whatever, it's like this seems to be like for me, a character issue of like, I don't care if he's a Democrat, I don't care if he's a Republican, a libertarian,
Sure.
but like anybody that conducts himself in that way, I don't think is fit to be president. But
I agree with you. That's why I didn't vote for
but I
him.
don't think that's
Well, I think the situation here is unlike. Sorry,
Kevin's not here. We got to do his job for him.
Okay,
so I disagree where I think it will be phasing out, because I think we're dealing with an old guard, mid guard, new guard situation where the old guard they're used to it. It's the Mad Men situation where you see it's a lot of misogyny and stuff like that. And the ones who are in power are realizing they have the power to lord it over. And not all of them do. You have the standouts who are, and that's what we're talking about now. But it's the mid guard who would be like the Ain't It Cool and things like that, where they kind of find that power and they're seeing it. We're seeing it abused, but and it's the new guard who, like yourselves, who are a new business. You're finding new power, and you're learning from their examples of, oh, we can't even joke about things like this. And that's where I think the change will be, because the mid guard, it's a gray area, and
It's the changing of the guard. Right?
yeah,
It's that middle
exactly.
area you're trying
And
to
they're
figure
the
out.
people in the middle who they have the decision to make, and some of them are making the wrong choice. But people like yourselves and other companies, they can find it where, hey, we're starting to come into this power, and we're seeing these mistakes that people are making, and they're also learning about, we have the politically correct culture now, and that's kind of informing people as well.
Sure, but that's what's so sad to see people rebel against that, right? And strike back so hard. Oh, it is PC, it is SJW, it is this feminist agenda, where it's like, I remember, and this is just me, I guess, but being raised in the 90s, right? And going to college and thinking like, I thought this is going to sound bad, but stick with me, that the hatred of feminism, I'm going to rebel against feminism, that's a bunch of chicks trying to change who I am bullshit idea, I thought had totally faded away. Because I grew up thinking, well, who the fuck isn't a feminist? Who doesn't want their daughters and wives and any aunts to be treated equally? Why is this an issue? And then you get here and it is this rallying cry and it is this hot button issue. And I'm with you in the way that I hope you're right, that there is this new wave and there are these new thoughts. But for me, what's still scary for me, and I couldn't put it into words then, but there's been examples now that I'll get to. But I remember distinctly in high school, where I went to a Catholic school, uniforms all the time, all this stuff. And we were out of uniform, but we were still dressed up. I forget if it was from a mass or what the fuck it was. I remember coming to my locker, and this girl who was a year under me was at her locker crying with her friends. And I was like, what's going on? And we weren't like close, but like, what's going on? And she's like, I'm being sent home from school. And I was like, why? And she's like, they say my pants are too tight. It's distracting for the boys. And I was like, I guess sophomore, junior, whatever. I was like, well, that's fucking stupid. What a dumb thing to say. But I tossed my books and went, her pants were really tight, but whatever. I went about my day and forgot all about it, kind of thing. And then recently now, as an adult, following these things happening, same idea, not in my school, obviously, but reading these articles of girls being sent home for wearing whatever. And the people I follow on Twitter, or people who are just retweeting people on Twitter, this one tweet that got retweeted, it's like, it's not, we don't need to raise the girls to be defensive. We need to raise the boys to realize that's not okay to be openly lusting after these people and doing this thing and giving into their sexuality or hormones, whatever you want to, or just being inappropriate. And it was that thing of like, holy fuck, that is the issue here. The issue is that when we're raising people, we're very much like, here's your rape whistle, and here's this thing, don't walk in groups, which are all good tips, of course. But at what point are we sitting all the guys down and being like, don't fucking rape people, don't attack people? What the fuck is wrong with you? Why would you do this?
Yep.